September 22nd, Abraham Lincoln.
Restore the individual. Be merciful as God is merciful. It was a couple of years before the end of the Civil War, and one after another, a parade of people visited President Abraham Lincoln. Some wanted their relatives who had been charged as spies to be saved from execution. Some just wanted a day pass to visit their husband in jail. Lincoln listened to them all. On September 7, 1863, a young Mrs. Thomas Theophilus Brown came to see the president. With her baby in her arms, she had traveled all the way from Alexandria, Virginia, which was now in Confederate territory. She had already been to the War Department looking for help for her husband and his brother, but no one would help her. Mrs. Brown begged to be allowed to tell her story, and Lincoln obliged. The young woman was given all the time she needed by the patient and caring president. She told how her husband and his brother had been at the Battle of Gettysburg, and they had been arrested as spies and imprisoned in the old Capitol prison. They had been imprisoned for weeks, and now they were saying the men were going to be shot. Mrs. Brown could not hold back the tears. She explained that they had never been on the side of the Confederate Army and always been loyal to the country, but they had been drafted and forced to fight. Lincoln must realize her men were no spies. She had hoped he would somehow save them. The whole time she talked, the baby girl Mrs. Brown was holding had been watching the president and smiling. Enjoying the tender moment, President Lincoln asked to hold the baby and brought her close. As he was holding the baby, she spoke the word, "Papa." The president laughed and placed the baby back into Mrs. Brown's arms. For a moment, he was silent. Then he began to pace back and forth. Finally, he stopped and wrote something on a slip of paper. "Mrs. Brown, you are a brave little woman," he said warmly, and handed the piece of paper to her. She glanced at the paper, and she saw it was a letter for the prison. In it, Lincoln had written, "This lady says that they were conscripted into the rebel army